So hi beautiful people, my name is Chun-Li. I am your host for today for our first series called Cooking with an Architect. With our first episode, we have a very special guest called Jason. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi guys, my name is Jason Sam. I'm an architect, currently working at practice in West London called Hunters. I've been practicing for a while, but qualified for nearly 2 years now. I work on lots of things really, but predominantly social housing and healthcare. And I'm really enjoying my career so far and learning a lot every day.
I know that you don't only do architecture though, you also do like graphic designing, which we'll kind of get into a little bit further down in the conversation. But on the show today, because it's all about cooking and looking at how architecture is more than just the buildings and the walls. Because a lot of times in architecture school, you talk about the 5 senses within architecture, and taste and smell always seems to be one of them. But it's very hard for you to taste architecture, right? So for me, the whole experience of that is actually the cooking part. And this is what the element I kind of wanted to bring into Cooking with an Architect, and also to get your take on it. So today, the theme of the show is called What Does Architecture Mean to You? And I know you chose a meal of what architecture sums up what architecture means to you. I'm not sure if you have a name for your dish, but...
No, I don't actually. It's just a dish I enjoy a lot and eat quite a lot. And it's kind of like architecture, I consume that constantly. So I figured to make something that's a staple in my diet.
Fair enough. So some of the first questions I wanted to ask you: how does architecture inspire you, and what made you want to even get into the architecture field in the first place?
To be honest, kind of need to not answer, but answer that question in a weird way. Loads of things inspire me, like many people. So it's quite a generic answer, but architecture specifically inspires me because opportunity to provide something great for communities that sometimes don't have a lot. So you can actually provide something amazing for someone that doesn't have much and give them a sense of value in their community. Good piece of architecture can bring people together. It can encourage conversations, good or bad, but it encourages social interactions. It can prevent things like loneliness, depression, if you've got somewhere where people can commune and socialise. And I think that's kind of what inspires me about architecture, more so than individual kind of extensions, loft conversions. I mean, they're important in their own way, but I think the community aspect and understanding people and how they work and how they move through spaces and understand spaces is really inspiring to me.
Okay, that's quite good, because one thing I always said about architecture is that you have doctors for the hospitals, for the people, the sick, and I kind of say that architects are the doctors for the built environment, because we have the opportunity to help with the well-being of people, especially during COVID. I think it really kind of dawned on a lot of people and architects and people who in the built environment that our spaces are very important. Yeah,
exactly. I think the last year and a half has highlighted that to no amount really, like the amount of cases like loneliness, depression, mental health cases that have come through, and that's linked to our social interactions or lack of, the environments we live in, which we've been working as well, unfortunately, and I think that's come to bear in terms of like people's relationships with their housemates, partners, whoever they live with, children. It's put a lot of pressure, and it's kind of forced us to look at the spaces we have and use every day and how we use them, and are they up to it? And the world's changed and the spaces need to kind of adapt to them. Because at the moment, many aren't fit for purpose.
Yeah, I definitely agree, because even in your house space, you have like flats, and some people don't actually have access to outdoor greenery spaces, especially during COVID. Especially during COVID time, a lot of people were so eager to get outside the house, and especially you have people who have like 4 children on a tiny little flat, and imagine being there in your house for so many like days, months, and not being able to actually go outside and allowed to like release that kind of like energy. So I think
have your own space as well. So like you share spaces with people, but you also need a space to decompress. So like I don't know what that is for you, but it's like you need 5 minutes maybe in your room meditating or something. Is there space for that? Is there a place for that? And architecture can kind of start to answer those questions for society with the help of loads of other stakeholders, obviously. But I think we have kind of a duty of care. We do have a duty of care as architects, but almost to like help society where we can.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And even like you're saying, the spaces and stuff, I think one thing as well that I kind of thought about is during COVID, a lot of people kind of turned into chefs. You could say everyone was baking, everyone was cooking. And I think that's one thing as well that kind of inspired this show, is that how can we incorporate food into, I say food, but the elements of food into our designs? Because very lot when you listen to restaurant like chefs and who, you know, those shows like cooking, baking, Great British Bake Off, and you have all those other like big shows and big architects, they always talked about how going in their mum's kitchen and smelling the aroma of food and going back into a space sometimes reminds them of their childhood. And I think as well, the important element is that maybe now we can start thinking about incorporating a wellness garden, but maybe growing your own crops, growing your own food, teaching people, creating a facility that kind of allow people to explore the other side. Because I think food is very much like architecture. When you put all the elements of your ingredients together, it's kind of like creating an experience for people. And it's just the same how we put in all the elements of architecture, the materials, the space and environment is also creating an experience.
And also like a more sustainable lifestyle as well, which I think something that is paramount to the profession and life for everyone generally, because you can see climate crisis, what's happening, and it's only going to get worse unless we kind of team up and try and stop what we're doing, kind of will change our lifestyles. So that's a really noble kind of aspiration, and I support it.
Mm-hmm. Your first ingredient is your chicken.
Right? First of all, you need, talking about sustainable lifestyles, and I'm eating a chicken, so probably not the most sustainable practice, but is what it is. So you need your tinfoil. First of all, a baking tray.
I have a baking tray, but I forgot to.
Well, I'll explain to you why I use tinfoil.
Okay.
First of all, it saves on washing up. Because that's time consuming. No one really wants to do that. And it also means you can wrap the chicken in foil if you're not eating all that same day and put it straight in the fridge, and it stays fresh and doesn't contaminate other stuff in the fridge. So if you preheat your oven to 200, everything's at 200, by the way, no matter what it is. I was told by someone famous. Oh my God, there's just put it on the 200, which is a really, really useful bit of advice for anything you're cooking in the oven.
Is it? Where did you have it?
No, it's not. I'm just making it up. Basically we just on 200, and it seems to turn out okay. So 200, and just get your batch cook. Typically, what you should be doing is soaking your chicken in lemon for a few hours beforehand to clean it, and then season it. But again, here's one I made earlier. You kind of want to put it in your baking tray squares.
Okay.
So like that.
So mine
and while your oven's heating,
like this?
Just grab your broccoli.
This is okay.
Grab your broccoli.
Okay.
Make sure that's clean.
So why did you choose to use broccoli?
Why did I choose to use broccoli?
Yeah.
Well, I think the key to like apparently a healthy meal is rainbow. So you need, again, told by someone very important to me. So you need all colours on your plate. Greens are very important. Broccoli is probably one of my favourite vegetables. It's got a lot of health benefits, as most vegetables do. And it's quite easy to make and really versatile. So in terms of architecture, in terms of design, it's kind of like something that it's like a basic principle, basic element of any dish I make, pretty much.
Okay.
Just like a window is a basic element of architecture, or a staircase, or just like a building block.
So a balanced diet, basically.
Get some water in that pot.
Okay.
We're just gonna boil this at I don't know what the oven is, so it's hard to tell what setting you're on.
So like 6 or 9 or something?
Yeah, sort of halfway, because you kind of want it to be ready when the chicken's ready. So probably quite a low heat. You can add some. Well, I'll do it afterwards, actually. It's a lot of pressure.
No, it's simple. It's just cutting. I don't know how you want me to cut them. I'm pretty sure. Is it like this? Okay.
Okay. Grab the floret and just pull it apart, very loose.
Okay.
It's not an exact science, because you're gonna eat it anyway, right? Right. On that note, your oven should be warm enough now to put your spatchcock chicken in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're gonna put it in for about 30 to 40 minutes. This is the bit that takes the longest time, you see. How's your rice doing?
Oh, my rice. That is a good question. I kind of like forgot about the rice. It's going okay. I think it's quite good. So another question I wanted to ask you is, how did you get into graphic designing? Because some of your work, I know it was actually debuted on Creative Debuts.
Yeah.
Correct? And I know you kind of got recognition for it.
Yeah.
And your work as well is really good. I've seen it. I will insert some like clips of pictures of your work, which is like really, really nice. Do you think, did architecture inspire the graphic designing that you started to do? Or would you say it was the political, because a lot of your work is very political as well. So do you think it's what was happening around you kind of inspired it? Or was kind of...
I think, well, architecture definitely inspired the style of work I do. And also just having a polemic about my work and generally what I do. Because I feel like architecture, you're kind of forced to always have a reason for decisions you've made.
Yeah.
Just because in practice you're spending someone's money, so they kind of have a justified enough why you've done what you've done, or there's a regulation to follow, or etc. But at university, you're very compelled to kind of defend design decisions. So I think that's kind of fed into the stuff I do in my free time with the graphics. Architecture definitely inspired it. I think it was during my part 2. I had a really special tutor called Andrew Yao at Westminster, hold tight TS13. Andre Martin was also a really great tutor, they're really great guys. And they kind of found something in me I didn't know I had. I was always into graphics from my early age, but didn't have that kind of, how to say it, I could always technically draw really well, but there was never like a motivation behind my drawings or a reason. So that kind of just makes it an illustration rather than artwork at that point. I think art comes into the conversation when you can have a discussion about what it is and how it makes people feel and stuff. Otherwise, it kind of means nothing, in my opinion. So during my first year, part 2, I kind of got recognition for my drawing work along with a couple of colleagues, Sai Wentham, very talented architect and designer, and Abdurrahim Al-Rahmani is also a similar talent to Sai as well. They inspired me during uni, actually. And it turned out we kind of, in a friendly way, kind of motivated each other to get better at graphics. And from there, my tutor kind of recognised I had a bit of a talent and pushed me on. And then my final year project, he recommended a drawing style I should try, which was very risky because it's your final year. You kind of just want to be safe and get the grade you need. But I kind of thought, I'm going to be in debt after this, paying for this course. I might as well just go out enjoying it. And yeah, it paid off. I got pretty decent grades. My portfolio looked so different to so many other people's because of this, and it kind of got me highlighted in a lot of like publications and stuff. And also when I set my CV out, people actually were curious about what I'd done and why I'd done it in that way. So it kind of helped me stand out in a competitive market. So it was good. I went for that.
Yeah, because I think your work is very much, it does stand out, and it is inspiring, especially the one of the Donald Trump, especially around the time when Donald Trump was in presidency in America.
Yeah.
And I think you reposted once that Donald Trump actually retweeted.
Yeah, he did tweet some more work. I don't know. I feel like there was a period of time where everyone in the world gave him too much attention, but in particular, I felt like it was more of a Donald Trump tribute act than an architect, or so. I kind of regret doing so many illustrations about him, but at the time he was so topical. A lot of my work is topical or current or based around things I read and see. It tries to add like a comical perspective to those, and using the cartoon format, it's kind of a nice aesthetic to package quite a serious subject. So rather than being like very preachy or dark and dim, you can have a bit of wit to something that could be potentially quite serious. And that I found it helps other people that aren't so necessarily interested in what you've got to say engage because they like the image. And then they also, once you like the pretty picture, you want to ask questions about why, what's happening, why is this happening? And eventually you're engaged in the dialogue rather than someone saying, read this article and watch this YouTube video. It's just a nice way of pulling people that wouldn't be interested in the topic into that topic.
And one other part of your work that really interested me as well, also with the Donald Trump one, was the SpongeBob, and you had like all the little lights, like the Instagram spotlights. Yeah. And I thought that was like really deep because I think sometimes we were so drowned with how many, or obsessed with how many likes I got on this post or how many likes I got in that. And I think we get lost in the digital world sometimes as well. And I like the fact that you kind of cross between your architecture role and also looking at serious issues, like you were saying before, but like you were saying, making it comical. But there's so much depth behind that piece of work as well, which I really liked. I don't know if that's the same why you made that. I don't know if there's a different meaning behind it or.
Yeah, I mean, during lockdown, it was kind of hard for a lot of people mentally, including myself. And I felt like that image I drew, to be honest, at that time. I felt down and like, even though I come across as quite happy and jovial a lot of the time, people don't know what's happening behind the scenes. So picking a character like SpongeBob, who you associate with like the carefree attitude, like never has a bad time, and then giving him like a 3-dimensional personality, and showing like, he can go through depression, and no matter how many people like him, he can still be sad, but still addicted to the likes, still craving attention through social media because that was the only way we were interacting for a long period. And it got people down, myself included, really. Funny enough, though, Spotify recently bought that image, which is quite nice. So it's in their offices. Yeah, I'm not sure they're aware of the meaning behind it. A lot of the time, I try not to explain too much, just because I like people to interpret stuff their own way, unless they ask. So thank you for asking.
Yeah, it's okay. Because I really liked it. I kept like looking at it. I was like, this is such a nice piece of work. And especially because, like you were saying, during the lockdown, a lot of people kind of took the social media as a way to kind of escape because, we can't escape in the places that we live. But digitally, I call it like the third space. You can be someone that you're not.
Yeah.
Or you can
be exactly. Like. Yeah. I mean, for good or bad, it's open up a lot of opportunities for people to kind of be seen globally. But you can be anyone, which is also quite scary in some dystopian way.
Yeah. Because sometimes you don't actually know who the person really is, or it can be you don't know what they actually go through. And online, I think it really does highlight the happy parts of it. But one thing I also wanted to ask is that in terms of, do you believe that the architects can benefit from understanding the principles of graphic design? Because very, very much in architecture school, right? I don't know if did I say that too fast.
No, it's fine.
Okay. Sometimes in architecture school, you'll just learn about design of architecture, but we never actually learn about the presentation of the work so that other people can understand.
Yeah. Presentation is key. Well, it's communication, visual and verbal. I think that's key to being successful in this industry. I mean, design obviously underpins all that, but any architect that's qualified generally has a great understanding of the principles of design. So the thing that I think I've noticed being in practice that sets you apart is your ability to communicate your decision making or your project or the proposal with the client, with other stakeholders, with engineers, with the rest of the design team, with the construction consultant team, with planners especially, and with the public, because you can have the best idea in the world, but if you don't know how to talk about it or explain it, it's just going to remain an idea. It's never going to be realised. And I think I don't know if it's architecture school, but there's a disconnect between what we do in school and in real life, where we actually build things, and there's a lot more people involved in that, which is something you're probably realising now yourself being in practice and stuff. We need to definitely work on communication, verbal and visual. But saying that, I don't think it's the role of architecture school. It's also the individual that needs to kind of self-motivate.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does make sense. Because even with me, when I first finished university, I did a little bit like dabbled into the graphic designing and understanding softwares.
Yeah.
And I think within architecture school, they also you need to know the understanding of how to make the building stand up and stuff. But I also think they need to also create some sort of learning around the whole presentation side. And I think that's the only thing right now in architecture school that's really lacking. There's nothing really teaching you about how to present your work, how to communicate your work to clients in a visual way as well. Do you understand?
Yeah, I get it, but it's quite difficult because it's so subjective. So what I might like graphically, you might not. I mean, there's obviously rules that mean things look right when you see them, but in terms of like colours, all that stuff, that's very personal. So it's hard for a university to teach you that. And also the architecture syllabus is so broad.
Yeah.
I think without knowing it, you actually take on bits of graphic design, bits of product design, industrial design into architecture just because of how broad the discipline is. The field is so broad that, like you said yourself, you come out of your part two and you're not working for you're working for a research practice. Like, I don't know many other disciplines where you can take a skill and it can be so diverse and used in so many different ways. Like, as architects, we're problem solvers essentially.
Yeah.
Probably solve beautiful solutions. That's it, really.
Like I was saying earlier, that architects are doctors for the built environment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we have beautiful solutions. Well, the idea is for it to be beautiful as it can be within the constraints that are set out. Yeah. So that could be site, budget, most likely budget. And resources generally available to you. So like materials, etc. But I don't think it's a role of architecture school to teach you elements of graphic design. I think some people just don't care. I mean, I've been interested in that since an early age. Like cartoon art, graphics of like manga. It's very stereotypical. I mean, I'm obsessed with The Simpsons still. Probably the oldest fan. Family Guy, etc. Like loads of short animations. I've always been interested in that side of things and how those realms can relate to real life, because they are kind of reflections of reality in a weird way.
Yeah. Because I also think you saying that I remember watching your interview with the creative debuts, and you were talking that you kind of got into design when you were like a child.
Yeah.
And your mum used to give you like books to kind of.
Oh yeah. So I recently found out that I'm autistic, but I had kind of hyperactive as a child, but I thought it was just like normal for a little boy to be. So at times when my mum was kind of overwhelmed, so she'd just sit me down and for like half an hour and say, "Can you draw this?" So she had time to do what she needed to do, and it kept me occupied for a period of time. And obviously that initiated practice, because she'd need to do stuff all the time. So to sit me down, so I'd end up just practicing how to draw and enjoying drawing and trying to understand things. And I draw buildings a lot because where we lived. I lived in South London, so there's a lot of buildings, things to draw, people, and I like to draw trainers as well when I was younger. Which explains a lot now, because I'm addicted to trainers, which is very weird. Like the crossovers, you don't know your child, but they kind of affect your adult life. So that's how I got into drawing, and then I wanted to be a cartoonist, like animator, do comic books. My granddad, he was actually a architectural draftsman before the Windrush. So when he came over here, his qualifications weren't recognised, and had to make money, so he became a painter decorator. But he actually had a good foundation in architecture, and kind of that must have seeped through into me somehow. I'm gonna check this chicken really quickly, because it's been about, I actually don't know how long it's been, but I'm also very bad at timing my food.
Mine's like
by look at things, I reckon about 15-20 minutes. But I'm also very bad at timing food, so it doesn't bode well for any potential clients. I can't put food on.
Yeah. It's okay.
Not reflecting my whole life. Just this is part of my life.
Just like, we will call it wing it, basically.
Yeah.
I feel like architects are good at it though, especially when you have to present your work and you haven't prepared the night before at uni, and you haven't like written your notes. You kind of just wing your presentation. So,
I think that's common. But one thing I learned in uni, because I'm not very good at winging it, was at the start of your project to write down. It's called a manifesto. Well, it's called an abstract, actually. That was a technical term we used in part 2. It kind of sets out a mission, basically. So like what the project is, why you're doing it, how you're doing it, and what you hope to achieve. And you should have that at the start. And whenever your project's going off the rails, you go back to that abstract and you read through your points and you make sure your project coincides with that. So when you present it, it's really clear. And I feel like any document you create, anything you do in architecture, you should have like what it is you're doing, why, how you're going to do it, and what you hope to achieve. And that's it. The proposal kind of takes care of itself at that point.
Yeah.
Because no one will really argue with you if it meets those criteria you set for yourself.
I think that kind of happens, I think, in the process of learning to become an architect or train to become an architect. You kind of I learned that mainly within my part 2.
Yeah.
In my part 2, that's where I wrote the manifesto, the vision, the outline, who my clients are. Whereas part 1, I feel like is more of, you're so overwhelmed by everything going on that is kind of
part one's a bit of a blur, if I'm honest. I don't know what I'm doing. I was way too immature to be at university. Like, I should have gone when I finished part 1, if you know what I mean. I should have taken some time out to work and figure stuff out. Yeah, so it kind of became, I don't know, crazy for no reason, basically. I thought Photoshop was an actual place, like Jessop's or Curry's.
Wow.
Yeah, asking, how do we get to this Photoshop? Where is it? Yeah. So that was quite funny. That tells you what stage of architect I was, or aspiring architect I was at the beginning of part 1. And kind of didn't really embrace the course until part 2, until I went to work and then understood what it meant to be an architect.
Yeah, I think that's what I enjoyed my part 2 a lot more than my part 1, because I had honestly amazing tutors in my part 2. I feel like part 1 was more of me trying to get my head around in a new environment, in a new course, understanding as well my own style, because I feel like you don't really understand your style in part 1 compared to your part 2.
You don't. You're trying to emulate all the famous architects that exist that you like because they're already famous and successful. But they probably obviously emulated someone at some point in their careers, but they've also, like you said, developed their own way of doing things.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So this leads on to the question that I wanted to ask you as well, is that as an architect and all the experience you have in the field of working in different practices and working with different people, do you what's your experience within the industry, and is there anything that you would change or keep the same, or would you improve?
So, well, chronologically explaining my CV, I'm going to have to in some ways. After part one, there were no jobs here because when I graduated, it was the midst of the crisis. So I worked as a model maker for a few months, saved up all my money, and then went to do an internship in Denmark for practice called. I applied to Big, and Big said, "Yeah, we like you, but you haven't got any experience as an intern, so get experience as an intern before you intern here," which is, I don't know what that even means nowadays. Yeah. Probably wouldn't be allowed, but at the time, I'm quite old, so it was probably acceptable back then. So I went to a place called Zebra, which is similar sort of stylistically to Big, and worked on a lot of stuff there, sort of early concept stages. But one thing that did get delivered that I worked on was these set of 3 children's playgrounds.
Okay.
And that kind of spurred on, okay, I really like social interaction aspect of how architecture can develop social interactions between people or communities. Because if you introduce a piece of architecture, a space, how does it get people there, and why would people come there, what are they doing there, how are they behaving with each other there, and kind of it's almost like a psychological thing that I didn't realize before at university. It's just like, oh, this is a nice building. I didn't really consider the context, why it was there, what we were doing with it. So when I went back from Denmark, I worked for a smaller practice in South London, Clapham, doing a lot of loft conversions and extensions, which is great grounding of just understanding the principles of how things get built and materials and costs and budget, and how a house in London, a typical Victorian house, goes together, and how it goes together with an intervention, and what that means introducing old and new in that relationship. And not just creating something out of context and it just looks good in a render on your screen when you rotate around it, model. This is stuff that happens in reality. So that was really cool to see and be part of. And it kind of set me up for part 2. Sorry, I need to go back to your question. Your question was, sorry, can you remind me again?
Yeah. So it's like you were saying about your the field that you're in, like the architecture field, and all your experience. And is there anything you would change or improve within the architecture field?
Oh, in the field, yeah, I think architects should be a bit braver in terms of, but it's also about our diminished role within architecture itself, because there's a lot of other jobs that take on things that we either don't have the time or capacity to do anymore. So our role is slightly watered down from what I thought it was when I first started this journey. I think you took control of everything. You see, when you do your part 3, you'll figure out the types of contracts, which mean your role is diminished completely to just producing drawings, which is quite sad in a way, because it's not what you got into the field for. But also, there's also practicalities of what generates a fee for a company versus also there's a risk of claims and disputes against you. There's a lot of practicalities that kind of discourage architects from taking on lead roles or taking too much responsibility for designs, which is unfortunate. If there was a way of being more collaborative within a team and well, a lot of it's about kind of spreading responsibility, which is understandable considering the climate we're in, but it means our role is slightly diminished, and it's quite sad. You kind of feel like I went to uni all this time for this, but it is where we are as a profession. I don't know the answer how to get back to those days, because things happen a lot faster as well. So a lot of the time, the architect doesn't have the capability to produce design insurance to be on site. So it's a very time-consuming career. So if you can pass on some things, it does help. But I'm a bit afraid we've maybe passed on too many things, too many responsibilities.
Well-being is very much spoken about, and
yeah, I do think we're very slow to embrace technology as a profession too.
Why do you think that?
Just processes and practices. Obviously, architecture is a slow profession because it takes so long to get something built, right?
Mm-hmm.
But for example, we should be using VR to present work to clients, not CAD drawings and internal renders. Mm-hmm. We should be getting people with headsets. I'm advocate for that. We're embracing technology to help us. But we seem to be sometimes scared. Like there's elements of some residential architects or small scale getting scared of people being able to survey their own houses. We still need a designer, but it's just that gives you more time to design if you can take the kind of administration away from your role. It gives you more time to focus on the stuff you enjoy, and we should use technology to help us and not see it as like a threat.
Yeah, I understand, and I kind of agree with what you're saying, especially you were saying earlier is that like with architects or with the architecture course and just in general on this field is very broad, and I feel like we have the skills from what we learned from being within in school or university and the understanding of certain software that we actually could create and design certain things like that, especially with the VR or even designing all softwares, because like I know how from architecture I'm able to use softwares like video editing softwares. You're able to code, like you were saying, that the softwares that we use, like Rhino, you're able to do product design stuff with those kind of softwares. So I think maybe do you think they're trying to stay in a way of if you go into this digital world, then I'm not truly an architect, or I'm
no, because there are practices out there that embrace technology. I'm being very general when I say that, we're slow as an industry. But I think, if you have a digital world, it can still splice with the physical world, and it's still like technology has its place. It helps with the workflow. Then I think it should be embraced. If it's not a hindrance to the profession and it's not threatening the profession, it should be embraced. But I think sometimes there's obviously the cost of licenses, and I mean this is the practicalities of day-to-day working, upgrading a system, teaching and training staff to learn a new system, and then also managing client expectations. Those things kind of maybe prevent sort of people embracing new technologies faster.
Yeah.
But also I think that some things need to become like industry standard. I don't know who implements that because there's no real body that can. But it's quite confusing because there's so many softwares and every practice uses a different one. There's consistency. I'm not saying, I mean, that's good in some ways, but it'd be cool if there was just like Revit seems to be doing that, and Revit has a lot of good capabilities. But I also feel like architects need to be a bit more hands-on with Revit and be involved. I love for architects to develop a software, basically.
Yeah, that would be good. Yeah.
Because a lot of softwares we use were intended for other professions, and we've kind of appropriated them and used them to our advantage. But there's obviously elements of it, like Revit for example, has more things related to structural engineering than it does for architects. And it's no coincidence that structural engineers and engineers help develop the program. So it'd be cool if there was like a group out there. Maybe we should start it, but that could develop a software specific to our profession.
Yeah.
But I don't, because obviously again, design changes so much and people are constantly trying to push things. I don't know if there's a software that there's no perfect software that can satisfy every architect.
Yeah. I think maybe this is what we're looking for from you then. So this maybe you in the next couple of years, we can say Jason designed a architecture software is a possibility.
When do I have time to do that?
Always time. There's always time. Maybe after work in the morning.
I need a clone before just to work on that alone. Just go back to uni, learn computer science and then code the software.
So before we go on to the next question, should we check the chicken to make sure that it's like...
Yeah. Sorry, yeah. And the broccoli as well, because the broccoli is quite slower than I thought.
Mine's kind of cooked.
Chicken. So,
it's ready.
Yours ready?
Yeah.
Okay. My oven's slower than yours then. maybe 200 doesn't work. So what I do to test it is I just cut it in half.
Okay.
See through, because you don't want any poison or salmonella.
Yeah.
Just check it and have a taste. Right, I'm gonna give mine 5 more minutes.
Let me see if mine's free veg.
Mine's not quite done.
Yours done?
No, not quite. 5 more minutes. Have you got the rice ready?
Yeah, my rice is ready.
All right, let me get mine ready. Because the architecture is quite large scale. You tend to use a lot of prefab, so this meal is inspired by things that are already made that you put together. That's why I put this in the pack.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so while we're sharing dishes up, one question I wanted to ask you is that now that we're serving this food, why, what does architecture mean to you? That's the question of the whole theme. So,
yeah, I've been thinking about this for ages, and I still don't really have an answer.
Okay.
Honest, kind of means everything in a way. Like, it affects every part of my life. Mm-hmm. It's the reason why I've lived in other countries. It's the reason why I've visited other countries. I've been fortunate enough to visit other countries. I made friends, had girlfriends, partners, like friends till now because of architecture, really, and just to understand and appreciation of space and design and graphics and all that stuff. So it kind of means everything. But at the same time, it can be so frustrating because it means so much to you, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. And like you were saying, like you chose this dish because it's very much like prefabricated. It's very easy. But with your explanation and the dish, do you think it sums up? Do you think it matches?
Yeah, because it's got everything on the plate. So, like I said at the beginning, you have most colours on the plate. I don't know if you can really see that without it falling off.
Yeah.
You've got like a solid foundation of rice that sustains you. Then you've got a bit of meat to provide a bit more sustenance and protein to help growth. So you need to grow throughout your career constantly.
Yeah.
You've got vegetables that provide a whole heap of vitamins and goodness to you, which is kind of like the element of just asking questions to people and learning about design and going to museums and visiting exhibitions and all these beautiful things. So the meal itself, although it's simple, all these simple things can help make you a better designer and architect.
That's so, what do you call it? Poetic. That is so nice. I like the answer. That's a good answer. Well, this looks really good. Yeah. I don't know if you can see mine. Can you see mine?
Yeah, I can see it. It's not bad. It's not bad. Probably better than mine. Probably tastes better than mine, to be honest. Like I said, I'm not the best cook.
But we put it at the same time. It should taste. I'm pretty sure you'll taste just like mine. Because it's the same chicken, so it should taste the same.
Yeah, that's true.
So I'm looking. I don't have the beetroot though, so mine's kind of missing the elements that you were talking about.
No, I didn't put beetroot on simply because you don't have it. So I saved it. Don't worry. So you've got the same.
One last question I wanted to ask you is now that we know what architecture means to you, and all the questions about your career and what you're currently doing and what you have done, what can you tell the audience to look forward to next? What's your next big move, say, or what's your next project that we should all look out for? That's next, like coming up.
I've been shortlisted for 2 London Festival Architecture projects this year. I didn't win them, but I'm probably posting those on my social media pretty soon, just to show people what I'm doing in my spare time. There's like one was a bench competition, which I came really close, but didn't win. And last week was one for the Pride Festival, which is opens next weekend, and they announced the winners like last week. So congratulations to Fosters who won it. Fortunately, I came pretty close, but didn't come that close. So that should be on my social media. That's also available to view via Architecture LGBTQ or via the LFA website.
I'll put it in the description.
Yeah, I'll write you something to put on that. but yeah, that's available to look at. It kind of gives you kind of insight into what I'm into when I'm not working graphically and stuff like that. It's more childlike. Um, in terms of illustration and graphics, to be honest, I've been very lazy this year. Lockdown, not really pushed myself, so there's nothing really new. It's all in my head. It needs to get out onto print or a medium I choose to put it out on. Yeah, that's basically it right now. And then trying to focus on my career really, and trying to put myself to the level.
I think it'd be great as well. Just an idea is to have like a gallery show of all your work. That would be quite.
Yeah, I'd love to do that. It's just finding the gallery that wants to put me in it. Really, yeah, and producing the content. I think I'm sort of developing a new character set, for cartoons at the moment. Kind of inspired by Joanne Cornella. I don't know if you know who that is.
No.
If you don't, check him out. His work's really insightful, but also really witty, similar to what I do, but on a much more professional scale. So I was inspired by that and sort of tried to develop these characters that could sort of convey messages that I have, rather than what I do at the moment, where I take cartoon characters that already exist and then put them in weird scenarios, doing weird things that more anthropomorphic than cartoonish. So yeah, that's what I'm kind of up to at the moment, and just trying to stay healthy and mentally and physically, really.
Hey man, that sounds really good. And also, where can they find you? So if anybody needs to find your work, where can they find your work? Or get
I'm a bit like this Pimpernel, to be honest. But the best place is my Instagram, which is In Search of Sam. It hasn't got much architecture stuff on there. I tried to keep that more graphic based, but I will be starting to post some architecture stuff on there, just because why not? I think creative things should be shared. Also, you never know, when you share stuff, people might like it and want to collaborate with you. So
yeah,
I mean, I'm giving advice for not following it, but yeah.
And as well, you have such a diverse amount of skills. So if you put in it on that Instagram, everyone get to see that you can do the graphic side and also the actual architecture.
Yeah.
Which is like,
so. Yeah. So I think it's good for me to kind of post. Also, just for feedback on design. So it's good to see what people that aren't in the industry think of your work as well, because they're generally the people that use it or interact with it.
Yeah.
So it's good to know if they like it or not.
Yeah, I think your work. I really like your work. That's why I had to get you on the show as well today, because I feel like you have so much to like share, and especially all your skills. I feel like you need to do like a workshop teaching people about how to use these softwares, how to design in a certain way, because I think you have a lot to give back. So
I think ultimately that would be the case. I think I've done some mentoring with Reba before, but I think ultimately I'd want to showcase more. But it's weird because you say that I've got so much to give back, but I don't feel like I know anything at this stage of my career. I always feel like I'm constantly. That's what I love about architecture as well. You're constantly learning. Like, every day is like you're nenever like bored, never bored, unless you're doing admin.
Yeah,
generally never bored, because it's always a new challenge. Every project's different, and it brings up its own problems which you need to find solutions to. So I'm always asking questions. So I always feel like I need to learn more before I can teach, but it's inspiring to know people look at you as someone that can give back. And if anyone wants to get in contact with me, feel free. We'll definitely help you out if I have the time. I might have the answer, but I can definitely point in a direction of someone that does. Yeah. So, you know how it tastes.
It looks alright.
Yeah, you're gonna throw it away after.
No. Should I try it? Or should
No. Off camera, just in case. Like,
let me try it a little bit. I think it'd be good. I think it's really good. Let me see.
I like the seasoning to it, and also it's just a time saver.
Yeah. No, I actually do like it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's quite good.
Okay. Not too dry, is it?
No, it's not. I'm definitely going to enjoy this after.
Yeah.
After the show. But thank you again. Thank you again for being on the show. And I'm going to put the details so that everyone can find you.
Thank you.
Where they can get in contact with you as well. Thank you everyone for joining on our first series of Cooking an Architect with Jason. I will put all his details down below so you can find out more about him, see his work, and also to contact him if you want any collaborations or just want to speak to him about, get some wisdom on architecture or graphic design.
Yeah.
So thank you again everyone for watching, and I will see you for the next episode. Bye.
Bye. Take care.